Welcome back to Film Snob HQ. We are wrapping up. We're doing a recap and a debrief on the third era of Marvel films. That concludes the second phase of the MCU. It's a shared multiverse. We still have Fox making movies. We still have Sony making movies. As we move forward, we are going to see kind of an improvement in the quality of Fox films. We had a couple of really good ones. The Wolverine is really underrated. We're going to see some sharing between Disney and Sony with Spider-Man in the next phase as well. But in terms of this kind of era of Marvel, we're seeing a lot of growth. We're seeing a couple of opportunities to improve. Thor: The Dark World, for example, I really like, but that highlighted a need to change that character. That character was very serious, and they wanted to kind of make some adjustments. He works really well in the Avengers films because he's a bit of a fish out of water, and they wanted to capitalize on that, which we'll see in the future films of Thor. I really like Dark World, though. We see a very different Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man films, only two for this iteration. I really like both of them, particularly the second one. I know it's an underrated film and an unappreciated film. I like that his costume felt more homemade. He felt more grounded, whilst having more spectacular villains. I also think they utilized CGI in terms of the web swinging a lot better because the technology was just there. No, disrespect to the Tobey Maguire films. I love those as well, obviously, but they made some changes, and they did some really interesting stuff with it. X-Men Days of Future Past happened. As I said, there are some moments in the film I really like, but it also kind of feels like an apology film, and it kind of just a retcon of timelines. So I wonder whether they would have needed to make that film, or whether they would have decided to make that film if the timeline hadn't got so messy. Maybe they would have. I enjoy it for what it is. There's some really great moments in it, and that ending is wonderful, but I would have probably liked to see a bit more time with just the new cast before merging them all together. But that's fine. It's a good film. We had some absolute stunning films, some of the best films that Marvel have made under the Disney banner. We have Winter Soldier, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, we have Age of Ultron, we have Ant-Man. There's just hit after hit after hit in this phase for me. And this is where, whilst I said there's opportunity for growth and rebuilding, this is where Marvel start to find their feet. Because from Captain America the Winter Soldier onwards, they don't have a misstep for a long time. Now, I personally don't think Marvel have ever made a misstep. I like everything they've done. There are things that I like more than others, but I don't think they've made a bad project yet. Although I haven't rewatched Secret Invasion, and that was probably the one I was least interested in, so we'll see in many videos' time. But we're now on the train of success, and they are now at a trusted brand. They're now at a point where they can take big swings like Guardians of the Galaxy, like Ant-Man. They're going to take more big swings later on, and they're going to be able to bring some major characters into the fold like Spider-Man. I really like this phase. This is a phase that people don't really talk about too much. They talk about Winter Soldier, they talk about Guardians, but that's about it. The other films seem to fall by the wayside, but I think it's a really strong phase. I think it's an incredible improvement on the previous phase. In terms of the era, I do think it's an improvement overall as well on the previous era. The second era of Marvel films gave us First Class, which, as you know, is my favorite of all the X-Men films. And Iron Man, obviously, is wonderful as well. But I do think, all in all, it is an improvement. I think Thor improves on the previous Thor. I think Avengers improves on the previous Avengers. I think Iron Man 3 improves on Iron Man 2, although I do like Iron Man 2 quite a bit. I think that the Fox films overall are better. I like First Class, but Wolverine Origins is fine. I think that Days of Future Past and The Wolverine are better than Wolverine Origins. So, we're getting there. It's a really good phase. It's a really good era. As I said, they're still finding their feet a little bit, and they're building and growing. Like, now what we're going to see in the next era is an explosion. All the films, their scope just improves and increases exponentially. They have a lot more fun. They take more risks. They bring in more interesting villains and stuff like that as well. I don't really have any other thoughts. In terms of the multiverse and how the different studios work together, I do think that the style is becoming more distinct between the MCU and the other films. In the first era, we talked about 1986 through to 2007, with the exception of Howard the Duck and the original Fantastic Four, they all kind of felt like they could have coexisted in the same universe. Like the Fox projects, the Sony projects, they all kind of felt like they could mesh In phase one of the MCU, the second era, again, they were still kind of finding their style. I feel like they could have incorporated Ghost Rider into that. I think they could have incorporated the X-Men First Class characters. But now that we're in this second phase, it's a very distinct style that Marvel has, and the other films do not match that style. So they are becoming more and more separate, which is both good and bad. Good because you can tell the difference between the products being produced, but bad because I do like that they kind of felt part of the same universe, even if they weren't directly connected. But yeah, it's a really good phase. There's so many wonderful films in there, and I'm really excited to begin the next one. There's movies in there that I really like, or I appreciate that people kind of have poo-pooed, and we're going to start with a movie like that. Fantastic Four, the 2015 remake. A lot of people, I would say arguably the majority of viewers did not like it. It's got a very low IMDb score. I think it's the lowest IMDb score we've had in a while, with a 4.4. Ironic, 'cause it's Fantastic Four. But I really like it. I'll save my feelings about the film for that video. The reasons I like it are probably the reasons people don't like it. It doesn't necessarily work as a Fantastic Four film, but it works as a really wonderful science fiction movie, and we'll talk about that later. That is the end of phase 2 / the third era of Marvel movies. We got some heavy hitters coming up, which is very, very exciting. Arguably the most successful and the most exciting phase of the Marvel timeline is right around the corner. So we're going to talk about all of that very soon. I'll see you then.